40. Let's bring in our guest here. They call him Stink. Mark Schlereth, NFL on Fox analyst, 3-time Super Bowl champ, won 1 with Washington, 2 with Denver, played his college ball at Idaho, the pride of Anchorage, Alaska. Mark Schlereth joining the drive, guys. Mark, what's up, man? It's Kyle and Jay. How are you today?
Doing great, man. How are you guys?
Good, man. Happy to have you on. Happy to have football back. Let's dive right into it. Training camps are underway. Obviously, we're Niners and Raiders country up here in Sacramento. Let's start with the Niners. 6-11 last season. Coming up in about 20 minutes, Mark, I'm going to deliver my power rankings in the NFC. Talk to me about just some of the question marks, some of the issues, some of the things that need to be answered for the Niners this training camp.
Well, I mean, obviously, the wide receiver room, you guys talked about that. I heard you talk about Jennings, that dude is all balls, man. He is a great, just not a wide receiver. He's a great football player. And what he proved to them last year is that he can play X, and be productive at the X wide receiver. So he is a dude that, I understand where he's at. Man, I want to get paid. I've never really been paid. I've always been a contributor and, and a tone setter. And there's very few guys that play the receiver position that actually set the tone for your offense, the toughness tone for your offense. So he'd be a guy that I'd be very interested in seeing exactly what he gets, because to me, he's one of my favorite football players, and he just brings some toughness to that offense. For the Niners, I think, I look at what happened with the Niners last year as almost a blessing in disguise, because you had issues, right? Ayuk came in, he was a hold-in, he wasn't happy with his contract, tears his ACL week 7. You got Deebo Samuel, who was unhappy all season long. He really wanted to transition into that go-to wide receiver guy. I think they looked at him more as he's a big-time receiver. He's a big-time gadget offensive weapon guy. He wasn't happy. He's fighting on the sideline. The other thing was some of the injuries, Hufunga being injured, Greenlaw really not playing. They found some young guys, and even at the cornerback position, they really stood up and played very well. Ricky Pearsall at the end of the year became a really big-time player. So I think it's almost one of those situations like I talked about in Denver here. Last year at this time, their roster in Denver was rated 30, I think, by, ESPN Analytics, whatever those clowns are. But they rated, mathematicians.
Come on, man.
Football. They rated the Broncos rosters the 31st best roster in football. And the reason is because they didn't have name value. They don't know who those guys are. And so they ranked them 31st. Well, guess what happens this year? They jump up to 6th overall. And come on, guys, really? Are they really the 6th best? Were they really the 31st, the 31st best? No. And ultimately what ends up happening is people don't realize by the end of the season, man, like the Mustafa kid, I don't know what his injury issue is, but that dude's a heat-seeking missile, man. I love watching him play. Pearsall, for the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season, was playing great football. Jennings playing really good football. And so I look at these guys and I say, I think San Francisco learned a ton just about their roster in general. And I think they feel pretty good. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch feel pretty good going into this thing, where other people have a little bit of confusion and not quite sure. I think they feel pretty good about what they've got on their roster.
Joined by Stink Mark Schlereth. Mark, we had an opportunity to get you on a couple years ago every week. Matter of fact, we probably need to do that again. And a part of that conversation every week was you had a great relationship because, of course, playing for the Broncos with Kyle Shanahan. You have some good insight and good conversations with Kyle Shanahan and, of course, covering the NFC. What's your take on the 49ers moving forward as you're talking about the roster, but also on Kyle Shanahan's movement this year? Because around here, a little bit, Mark, there are some people who are getting the itch for Shanahan to, I guess, win a Super Bowl compared to just continuously winning.
Yeah, there's enough idiots out there that are like, hey, you know what? If he doesn't win a Super Bowl, we need to move on.
Right.
That ain't. Let me just tell you, I've had conversations with one-on-one conversations with Jed York, and he's not that dumb. He's a smart guy, so he understands how good a coach he has. Ultimately, a lot of it's going to come down to what Brock Purdy does. Now, I happen to be on the Brock Purdy train because I think the kid's pretty amazing. And I think his ability to process information instantly and make great decisions. Obviously, he's always been a guy that didn't have elite level arm talent, not elite level size, and all those things. So he's got to make up for it by being on time, on target. You can't be on target if you're not on time. So, like, he's lived that life, his entire career, all the way back through, his college career. So I'm a big Brock Purdy guy. And I think there's just so many, there's so many things that happened last year with injuries, missing time. Obviously, getting McCaffrey back fully healthy will be a huge key, because he becomes that weapon guy that can play, obviously running back and do all the things out of the running back position. But he can line up anywhere across the line of scrimmage, from the outside receiver to the slot guy to whatever you ask him to do. And he can run routes like he's a wide receiver. So he gives you some versatility in the passing game that really very few backs. Like, I looked at their pass chart the other day, before FS1 canceled my TV show.
Man, Mark, we weren't going to talk about that because they did a bad job, fam. They messed that up. But go ahead.
Listen, man. You know what? I mean, I ain't been. It's not going to be the first time I get kicked in the nuts, and it won't be the last time I get kicked in the nuts. So, look, man, I'm a big boy. I can handle it. But I was looking at the pass charts, and you look at where McCaffrey caught the ball compared to where the other backs, their pass chart is between the tackles, 4 to 5 yards deep. That's, and a few screen passes, but that's where it is. And then you look at McCaffrey's, and they are across the line of scrimmage from one sideline to the other sideline, evenly distributed. He's just a weapon that they haven't had, and it is a huge key to their success and some of the things that Kyle Shanahan does in that offense and the mismatches that he creates on a consistent basis. So that is going to be obviously a big time, like getting McCaffrey back fully healthy is a big time feather and a big time chess piece, if you will, for the San Francisco 49ers.
Three-time Super Bowl champ Mark Schlereth joining us here on The Drive, guys. Mark, I want to talk about the defense. You got Robert Saleh back in the mix, back in the fold. This Niners defense last year gave up, if I'm correct, the fourth most points in the league at close to 26 points per game. They went out and drafted 5 guys right off the jump in the NFL draft. Their first 5 picks were defensive players. You bring back Saleh. How do you see this Niners defense improving this season?
Well, the Saleh mantra, the all gas, no brakes mantra is big because it's true. I think Robert's been a friend, and he is a damn good football coach. And he's a guy that I think errs on the side of what I think is important when you play football. It's playing with reckless abandon. And the only way you can do that oftentimes is to keep it simple, stupid. And I always think about like the 10,000 hour rule. Like I grew up in the Shanahan offense for my last 6 years in the league in Denver, and we ran the ball against anybody. It didn't matter who it was. We're going to run the ball against you, and we're going to dominate. And ultimately, we really ran. I mean, you're always going to have a game plan specific run, something that defense struggled with in a play action that is perfectly married to that run. So you're always going to have a couple of game plan specific runs, or game plan specific, plays. But ultimately, we ran roughshod through the league, like crap through a goose, running 6 plays. Now we window dressed them and we made them look different. We did a lot of things, from a formation standpoint and personnel standpoint, which the Niners do an exceptional job. And their menu of runs is much larger. Kyle has expanded that dramatically compared to his father, Mike. But the best thing I can tell you about that is, it's the quote unquote 10,000 hour rule. Like, we're going to run this play, and we're going to run it down your throat. And I've run it 10,000 times. You've defended it 100 times. We're better than you, and we know it. It's Globo Gym. I mean, I'm better than you, and I know it. Right. And one thing that Robert does a great job of is, hey, man, we're going to play this defense. but we're going to be perfect in our leverage. We're going to be perfect in our drops. We're going to create opportunities for ourselves, and we're going to be better than you. Like, we're just going to, and that's been a consistent theme. And oftentimes when you're struggling, and you're struggling to kind of find your way, one of the real answer is to simple it down, right? So there used to be a country song by Neil McCoy. It was small up and simple down. Like, that's how you get your guys to play faster. That's how you get your guys to play better. But sometimes the response of coaches is, hey, this isn't working. Let's put more in. Let's be more diverse. Let's give ourselves more opportunities. Let's be perfect. And I absolutely hate that. I hate, like, I meet with a lot of offensive coaches and coordinators and head coaches, and they're like, hey, we want to have the perfect play dialed up. We want to have, one of the terms they use is premium plays, and it makes me want to vomit. Like, we want a premium play every time we line up. And I'm like, baloney, man. I want to line up and I want to shorten your freaking neck. I want to line up and just say, hey, we're going to run this against anything. And you know what? And understand, there's value in a 2-yard run. Sometimes there's value in some dirty plays. There's value in some nastiness. And too many coaches in today's game want everything to be perfect, perfectly aligned, and have the perfect play. And if they give us an over front, well, then we're gonna check to a weak side run. Or if they give us an under front, we're gonna check to this pass. And my thing is, let's line up. Let's take it off the quarterback's plate for a play or two here and there, and let's just beat somebody up. And the teams that can do that on a consistent basis, to me, are the teams that we're watching play deep into January.
Man, so you got me fired up.
I know,
already,
right?
Baby.
It's
July,
man. Come
on now. Speaking of, we had the opportunity to see you Sundays calling more or less the NFC. Heading into the NFC, I think you look at, there might be a window open because a lot of quarterbacks have kind of moved on from this side. We have a new regime coming in. What are some of the questions or teams that you don't necessarily have questions moving forward for the NFC? Who are some guys that are teams that you believe are like, yeah, I think they're going to be good?
Yeah, obviously the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be good. I'm really interested to see what Detroit does without their two coordinators. Aaron Glenn went to the Jets, obviously. Ben Johnson went to Chicago. And I think one of the things people sleep on Detroit a little bit because they don't credit Dan Campbell for what that offense really was. And remember, when Dan Campbell took over, Dan Campbell was calling plays, and he eventually transitioned to Ben Johnson. Now, Ben is, I'm not besmirching Ben. He's a great play caller, and he is, a real offensive mind wise. He's great, but Dan Campbell, I always call Dan Campbell, he's, he plays the role of meathead well, but Dan Campbell's a really smart dude, right? He really understands offense. So, I guess I don't necessarily tremble over the fact that they've lost their two coordinators. They should get healthy on the defensive side of the ball. I think Minnesota's, in for a little bit of a setback going to J.J. McCarthy. It'll be really interesting to watch, how that transpires there. The NFC South is garbage. Regardless of who wins it, they'll get in the playoffs, but they're not right now. I don't think any of those teams is great by any stretch of the imagination. It'll be interesting to see exactly. I think Atlanta probably, is right there neck and neck with Tampa. I shouldn't say Tampa's garbage. I think Tampa, Baker Mayfield, pretty good, but it'll be interesting to see exactly what Atlanta does and how Penix plays. And, and I look at the West, I think that, I think for me personally, I think San Francisco wins the NFC West. I think LA will compete and be right there with them. But I think those are the two teams to beat in the West. But you're right. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be how healthy you stay and exactly like how Purdy plays. But I pick the Niners to win that division.
Mark Schlereth joining us. Mark, I can't let you go without asking a Raiders question. You got Pete Carroll down there. You got Geno down there. Can the Raiders turn some things around and make some noise out there in the AFC?
I think the Raiders are going to be much improved. Which, I mean, they're the Raiders, so it doesn't take a whole lot to be much improved, right?
Coming from a Denver Bronco right here, right?
I was like, you asking Mark about the Raiders?
I'm just saying, I gotta do my job here.
Right. No, I get it. And people, people always that feel, oh, he's a Bronco, he's always busting on the Raiders. And what people don't understand is I'm a huge Raider fan because I was 11-1 against their punk ass when I played here in Denver. So, I mean, we just put it on them. I mean, the sisters were kinder to Andy Dufresne than we were to the Raiders during my time here in Denver. So, but with that said, I love Pete Carroll. I'm a big Geno fan. I think Geno can play. And I just know how Pete Carroll, how he operates. Like, we're going to be in a bunch of, like he'll tell you, we're going to be in a bunch of one-score games. We're going to play stellar defense. I think Max Crosby is one of the best football players, regardless of position, in the National Football League. That dude is a maniac, and I love watching him play. And they're going to run the ball. Pete Carroll wants to play 90s football. We're going to run the ball. We're going to keep the score down. We're going to give ourselves a chance to win in the fourth quarter, and we're going to win games. And that's the way. I mean, that's the way Pete Carroll operates. It's how he operated in Seattle. It's how he'll operate here in Vegas. And I think they're going to be. I think just because of him and because of the philosophy, because of Geno, I think they're going to be a much improved team. And listen, man. As much as I hate the Raiders, I probably hate Boise State more. But that Ashton Genty kid can play. That kid can play. Man. So I'm really looking forward. I'm really looking forward to watching the Broncos beat them in really tight games.
Mark, last one for me. Let's stay right there up in Denver, your neck of the woods. A huge Bo Nix guy. Drapes is a big Bo Nix guy. Myself, you have the opportunity to really hone in on Bo. Love Patrick Surtain, of course. Got Talanoa Funga, Dre Greenlaw. I mean, just some great talent up there in Denver. Just your overall take on the Broncos, but really, what's your feeling on Bo Nix? How are you looking at Bo Nix? How is Denver looking at Bo Nix?
Yeah, I loved him coming out, and I had a long conversation about him coming out with Sean Payton. And, Sean was just like, listen, man, coming out, we really dug deep into all the quarterbacks and just A+ from a learning standpoint. Like Bo Nix got the playbook, assimilated the whole playbook overnight, and just regurgitated the whole damn thing. And it's like something like Sean was just like, that's the most impressive kind of, just mental workout that we ever took anybody through. And then like the things he loved, didn't fumble the ball at Oregon, didn't take very many sacks, throws the ball on time. And that's the biggest thing, like stepping up in the pocket, not escaping out the back of the pocket, not putting yourself in harm's way. I mean, a sack is so incredibly penalizing, right? Because it's not only the loss of yardage, but it's the loss of down. And you look at the general NFL statistics on a sack, you give up a sack and there's it's some ridiculous 8% chance of scoring after giving up a sack. I don't know what the percentage is, and I just made that up, but it's incredibly low. And it's one of those things where you just can't overcome those things. And so, and anymore in the NFL, the sacks to me, and this goes for Sean Payton as well, sacks have become more of a quarterback driven statistic. So if you look at sacks in this league, every time we'll go through a team meeting, that sack will be credited to either, a guy up front, it'll credited to, a receiver didn't recognize the hot route. So that goes on the receiver, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, the back didn't pick up the safety blitz. That goes on the back, right? So it's not always the offensive line. And in today's game, unlike when I played, we ran a lot of 7-step drops. We ran a lot of 5-step drops with multiple hitches. Like that, the game isn't played that way anymore. The game is played more horizontal, like east-west, than it is north-south in the passing game, right? All the swing passes, all the bubble screens, all the different things that go on. So there are a lot of throws where the quarterback's got the ball out of his hand in under 2 seconds. And ultimately, you take more sacks because the quarterback decides not to throw it, to look for something better, to hold on to the ball. And so it's more a quarterback-driven statistic in today's game than it's ever been in the past. And so when you start giving up sacks, one of the reasons that Sean Payton couldn't wait to get rid of Russell Wilson, because about 65, 70% of all sacks given up in Denver were credited to Wilson at the quarterback position. And that kills you as an offense. It kills you. So you can, as a quarterback, you can put up good stats. You can have a great passing completion percentage. You know, you can limit your interceptions and everything else. But if you take 40 sacks or you take 45 sacks and 35 of them are your fault, you're not going to win games. And that was one of the biggest upsides to drafting Bo Nix is Bo Nix does not take sacks. He'll throw the ball away, doesn't care about percentage, isn't playing the game to pad statistics. And that is huge. And it was a big reason the Broncos loved Bo Nix. And I'm really looking forward to seeing year 2 of him because I just watched his growth process through year 1.
Our guy, Mark Schlereth, Stink, they call him, joining the drive, guys. Mark, we appreciate it, man. 3-time Super Bowl champ, Idaho Vandals' finest. Grew up in Alaska, Mark. We appreciate you, man. We got to have you back on again sometime soon as we near the season.
Absolutely, guys. No problem.
All right, appreciate you. Mark Schlereth joining us here on the drive, guys.